He said, "We will ask you to end this horrible narrative. Your verdict will be the link that writes the final chapter for this tragic saga. A chapter that delivers justice for Tammy, justice for JJ, and justice for Tylee." I like how he said the word justice before each victim's name, because if you say justice for Tammy, JJ, and Tylee, it might not have the same impact as justice for Tammy, justice for JJ, and justice for Tylee. That just reminds everyone, yeah, there's three victims here, two children, one wife. I mean, Chad was married to Tammy for 29 years. It's still, I've never seen a betrayal like that. And we've seen many cases, of betrayal, people poisoning their partners, and all sorts of things, plotting to murder them or have a hitman after them, all of that. But this, to allegedly do it oneself, and the way it was done, and for what, it's just so shocking. Okay, so then it was time for the defense's opening statements. John Pryor, the only defense attorney that Chad has, delivered the statements, and it was about 19 minutes long. He introduced himself. He said, "At my age, video presentations are not something that come easy to me." He told the juror not to be distracted by speculation. He also said not hunches and assumptions. He said it all comes down to facts and evidence. He talked about Chad Daybell's missionary work. If you didn't know anything about that, we did a live stream recently. It's on the playlist. It's linked below for you, where we went over Chad Daybell's entire history, like where he was born, how many siblings he had, who his parents are, the missionary work that he did, and the book writing business that he got into, and all of that. So go check that out if you didn't. But the attorney spoke about Chad's missionary work and then his relationship with Tammy. He said they had an extended engagement, which was 6 months, which is that extended? I don't think so. 6 months. I think they got married pretty quickly, but extended engagement 6 months before they got married. Okay. Chad Daybell's publishing company, he also talked about that, but he said it was predominantly run by Tammy. So he's trying to distance his client from those books that he wrote and the selling of the books and all that, which I don't think worked very well. But anyway, they said, let me know what you think as well. It's just my opinion. I would love to hear your opinion. He said, Chad wrote about his premonitions, good and evil, dark and light. So again, he's just minimizing, the shocking content that's in those books and actually shifting blame. This is where they throw Lori and her brother right under the bus. And I say they being obviously Chad Daybell, who's still married to Lori. Okay. So here it's just like, no, go for it, throw Lori right under the bus. So basically, he says Tammy predominantly ran the publishing company. Chad was just, writing about his premonitions, like anyone would. Like good and evil, dark and light. The people aren't making zombie charts and telling others that they need to die if they are dark, according to them. All right. So Chad was trying to sell his books at seminars. They said that's how he made his income. So he was just sitting there basically like a good boy, just selling his books. And then this, I hate to say these words, honestly. We said it again yesterday, but he said this beautifully stunning woman named Lori Vallow comes up and she starts giving him a lot of attention. And she pursued him. Now, it's very difficult, okay, to call Lori Vallow Daybell beautifully stunning. No. Especially, of course, there's just no criminal that's beautiful or stunning. Okay, killers, not beautiful or stunning. I don't care how they look. They're so ugly on the inside that I just can't imagine using words like that to describe them. Right? He could have just said this attractive woman, but I guess he's trying to defend his client. Obviously, he's going to say this beautiful, basically goddess, glowing blonde woman. Okay, he said named Lori Vallow comes up and she starts giving him a lot of attention. She pursued him, so he's showing her intent, and then he cleverly goes into all her relationships, all her marriages, and just one after the other, showing her patterns, right? So that he could start shifting the blame onto her. He said she then at that seminar helped him to sell some of his books. So she did do something very dominant. She walked up to him. She'd already read some of his books. She spoke to him. I'm sure her eyes were twinkling, and he was just like, wow. I mean, she would know how to manipulate based on everything we know about her. and what effect she would have on someone like Chad, right? And then she actually went to the other side of the table and sat down next to him and started helping him sell his books. I mean, that is so inappropriate, right? He's a married man selling his religious books, and she's just like swooping in, like, I am now going to charm literally the pants off this man. Oh my goodness. Okay, so a length of time after the seminar, there was no contact between the two of them. Is what John Pryor said. But then he says a month and a half, 2 months. Okay, but that wasn't very long. Okay. Then he talks about, Chad didn't have any criminal records or anything. There's no real red flags in his past. Besides, it doesn't mean everyone digging graves is a red flag. I'm just saying, besides him digging graves for 20 years and then his near-death experiences and thinking he's very, very special and basically the voice of God, that's a bit of a red flag when you look at that. So they said, though, he had a speeding ticket in 2005. We see many suspects like that, like Richard Allen, speeding tickets, Koberger, speeding tickets. So they don't all have, criminal backgrounds. These are all suspects, innocent or proven guilty at the time of this recording. So they say speeding ticket in 2005, but Lori Vallow was a different story. She had very short-lived marriages. And then he points out the following, that Alex Cox would do anything and everything to protect, aid, and assist Lori Vallow. And I do think that's true. Also, did you know that Alex Cox was married for about a year? And I think it was in 1992, if I'm not mistaken. Quite a while ago. He was married for a short time. And that ex-wife said that the reason that she divorced him was because of just how inappropriate him and Lori were. That they would be like simulating sex acts with each other, and they were just strange. She was just like, I want out of this. It's making me very uncomfortable. So I do think that Lori had Alex Cox wrapped around her finger. I think he really would do anything and everything for her. Now, husband number 3 was Joseph Ryan. Alex apparently tased him, based on, of course, what Lori was telling him about Joseph Ryan. Alex was actually put in jail, and if you've ever watched my coverage on this case before, we looked at his comedy show before. Alex Cox basically wanted to be a stand-up comedian at one stage, and yeah, those jokes were not very funny, but he talked about that, okay, going to jail, and he says Chad Daybell didn't even know that Lori existed. So he's showing Lori's behavior before she even met Chad, and I do think that does hold some weight. I do think that Lori is far darker than Chad. I think that Chad is pretty, I don't know how to word it. I don't know what way to look, like somber, stoic. I'm not finding the right words, but Lori, I think she's very dangerous. So I'm not minimizing that Chad's dangerous. I just think that Lori is more controlling, manipulative, and dangerous than one could ever really imagine, right? Although we learned a lot in the trial. Hopefully now we can imagine it, right? So they said that Chad Daybell didn't even know Lori existed, and then in 2019, Alex shoots Charles Vallow. What he did. Lori wanted to get rid of him. There were ugly texts between Lori and Charles was so onto her, saying he knew that she was having an affair. He was then going to email Tammy Daybell, and he did. There's over 1,000-page document in this case, and there's so much in there. There's emails, text messages, letters, and things like that. We've gone over some of it before, but definitely never all of it. So if you ever want me to just go over some of that, I might add it into some of these episodes that I do as recaps, because they're going to bring up some things in the trial, and then again we can see it with our own eyes, right? So because that projector screen in the courtyard, we can't see much from there. So they said 29 years of marriage, Chad with no discernible issues in his life, and then Lori Vallow comes into the picture. I mean, it does seem like that, right? He's just living his life, 29 years married, 5 kids. I think at the time he was a little bit bored. He was looking to spice up his life. And wow, did somebody come in there and spice up his life? Damn, Lori. Again, I'm not putting all the full blame on Lori. I think they are both to blame, in my opinion. I just think that Lori is very influential, manipulative, controlling, all the things I already said. So he says again, a beautiful, vivacious woman, a very sexual person, and very manipulative. Yeah, she comes into his life and does all that. So he said, yes. Now, this was interesting when he said, yes, there was a murder. Yes, there was a burial. I don't know why he said that, because we already know there's 3 murders. Okay, and 2 children were buried in his backyard. And Tammy died in their bed, as in Chad and Tammy's bed. And then she was buried, and then her body was exhumed, and then they deemed her death a homicide. So I don't know why he says that, maybe it's a tactic. There was a murder, there was a burial. There was more than one, sir. Okay, then he says the backyard of Chad Daybell. Well, we have a 4.5-acre farm in Fremont County, Idaho. And then he talks about JJ's remains being found in the pasture and not in the backyard. So what he's trying to imply there is creating reasonable doubt, of course, that Alex could have accessed the property, to bury the children there. I still think the grave digger did it, in my opinion. But let's see. Now, he then said there will be 4 experts testifying for the defense. In Laurie's trial, there were no witnesses. I know everyone's asking, will Chad take the stand? We never know. They always ask them later, are you going to take the stand? And I would guess at this point he's not going to. Let me know what your guess is. So the 4 experts, Dr. Greg Hamkin, a DNA expert who got Amanda Knox exonerated in Italy because of DNA evidence, which, by the way, there's a trial happening for her right now in Italy in absentia, so she's not present. But they're still going on. Italy's still busy with it, okay? They say he's also going to say that there was no DNA evidence, no hair sample of Chad Daybell on Tylee Ryan or on JJ Vallow. Well, there wasn't much left of Tylee Ryan. On JJ Vallow, I wonder. So whose DNA was on it then? That's going to be interesting. They're going to talk about that. Then they're going to have Dr. Raven, a forensic pathologist, who will say that there's no indication that Tammy's death was a homicide. Now, I do think it's going to be interesting hearing from Dr. Raven, and of course hearing from the state's witnesses, because of course if Tammy's death was originally ruled that she died from natural causes, there's a lot of evidence that would have been lost then, right? Transporting her body, burying her, and everything without considering that this could have been a homicide at the time. Patrick Eller will also testify, a data forensic examiner. Alex, he's going to say that Alex visited the property multiple times. So you can see what he was trying to say earlier. Then Dr. Eric Bartelink, a forensic pathologist. It's interesting that he mentions the 4 experts' names, almost so that the jury can keep in mind, well, just wait till you hear from these guys. Here's their names. These are the experts you're going to hear from. Almost like, sure, the state will now present the case, but I'm going to be bringing these experts. Quite clever. Then 3 to 4 of Chad's children were testified. Chad had 5 children with Tammy. Then he said they're going to talk about their mother's health struggle. They're going to talk about their mother's use of various medical treatments she would use, oils she would put in her leg. You mean like arnica oil, sir? Talking about like essential oil. Oil she would put on her leg, medicine and different herbs she would take, like vitamins. And that their mother was suffering from a number of maladies and she would refuse to see a doctor. She was training for a marathon, so I don't know if I believe any of that. Let me know what you think. I know I keep saying that, but I'd love to hear what you think in the comments. That is actually the summary of the opening statements from the state and from the defense. That was pretty much the end of it. The defense then just said, of course he wants them to find Chad, the jury, to find Chad not guilty. The state said, we'd like to find him guilty and end this horrible narrative. And that was the end of it.